Hi guys, welcome. This is our first Campfire Chat. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the questions that I got. That's awesome. So I'm just going to jump right in. Let's get started. Lisa asks me, how do the dogs like to travel? Well, Asta's fine. She's always traveled well since she was a puppy. She's traveled a lot of seminars. When I used to do a lot of sport dog training with her, we did a ton of traveling. She's great. She gets in, she goes to sleep, and then she wakes up when I get to where we're going, and she's fine. Chaos, not so well. He doesn't travel that well. He never has, to be honest with you. Right from the beginning, it was really tough for him. I would travel short distances. I would drive for an hour, and we would stop and maybe take a really long walk somewhere, and then we would get in the rig and drive for another hour, and that was it. But now he's much better. He's gotten a lot better at driving. Even now, I would say he's still not the best traveler. He'll sometimes lay down and sleep for an hour, and then he gets restless. Other times, it doesn't even take more than 15 minutes. He just doesn't have he has a very hard time getting settled and staying relaxed when we're driving. So, I play it by ear with him. It depends. These days, we don't drive for more than usually 2 hours in a day, so it's not such a big deal for him, and I think this is probably the best way for us to go until he gets even better at it. But overall, he's not that bad. Just a little restless. That's about it. Let's see. So next question comes from Lucy. So Lucy asks me, did it take some time for you to acclimate to your new rhythm? Yes. Yes, it did. Thanks for your question, Lucy, by the way. It did. So let's see. It took about a month, I would say. The first month of traveling was really, really kind of hard for me. It was hard to adjust to this lifestyle. It was hard because I had 2 dogs that were also learning to adjust to the lifestyle. I would say by the end of about a month, I wasn't scraping my knuckles as much on the cargo bays, and I wasn't banging my head on cupboards. I finally got the hang of it, and I had a rhythm. And so at that point, it started to feel much, much more comfortable. Now we have a definite rhythm, and we stick to it because I think having routine or rhythm is important for me, and I think it's important for the dogs. It helps the dogs to feel a little more secure as well and comfortable. So yeah, I would say about a month to get into the rhythm, and I'm still refining that. We've been on the road now for 3, going on 4 months. I'm still kind of refining that rhythm, but yeah, we've got a rhythm after about 30 days. I will say, I don't know the best way to put this, I will say that in the Western United States, it's easier because of the style of camping I like to do. I like to spend about 5 days or so boondocking, and then maybe 3 to 4 days in a state park with full utilities or several utilities at least. And I go back and forth like that. And for me, it's much easier in the Western United States to do that and to develop a rhythm, because there are so many places to boondock in the Western United States. There is a lot of BLM land, which is what I use all the time, including the campground I'm at right now. I'm not going to say where I am, because when you watch this video, I'll probably still be here, but I am in a campground in New Mexico, and this campground is $5 a night, and you have access to water and toilets, and that's it. So it's almost like boondocking, but it's in a campground, which I kind of like because there are still some people close by. I feel pretty safe. And there's even a camp host here. So it makes it easier to find a rhythm in the Western United States based on the way I like to camp. So next question is from Crystal. And Crystal asks, how do you find places to boondock? That is a really good question. That's the $1 million question. For me, the way I boondock mostly, the way I find places to boondock, I use 4 apps. I use RV Parky, Campendium, The Dirt, and iOverlander. Those are the 4 apps that I use to find boondocking. Also, I talk to other people when I'm camping often when I'm boondocking, I find boondocking spots that have other people boondocking close by. Not too close, but close enough, and I will sometimes strike up conversations with them, and they'll often volunteer boondocking spots. I know a lot of boondocking that's really good, people don't tell you. They don't want to share their spots. It's a secret, and I can understand that, because this brings up a bigger point about boondocking, and that is a lot of places are on BLM land. Well, pretty much all of them are, at least that I've been to. And you know what? Some of them get trashed. People end up living there permanently. They end up dragging like mattresses into their space, and or they'll just dump stuff, couches. And you can go out to a boondocking spot on BLM land and you can find stuff like that all the time. Glass everywhere. It's really sad. In fact, BLM land around Flagstaff has been closed for 2 years because of that very reason. That's the unfortunate side of boondocking. Your question leads into that bigger point for me anyway. And when I boondock, you have to be ready with a backup, with a plan B and a plan C, and sometimes even a plan D. And those are the 4 main ways that I find my boondocking, through those apps. Overlander probably being the one that I think I like the best right now. One more question I have from Crystal, and that is, when traveling, how do you plan for emergencies? And she's referring to dogs in her question. So how do I plan for emergencies with my dogs? You know what? As always, Crystal is a friend of mine, and thank you. Actually, all 3 of these people are my friends, so thank you. It's so awesome having friends like this that support me in my first Campfire Chat with questions. That's a really good question, Crystal. How do I plan for emergencies for my dogs? You know what? I did not plan for emergencies when I was traveling for the last 3, almost 4 months now. Your question made me realize that I wasn't really prepared. And so, because of your question, I now have a plan for my dogs. So here's the deal. First, preventative, right? So I try to keep my dogs really healthy. They see their vet, they have all their shots, they have heartworm and they have flea and tick medicine, and they will go back to their vet once a year for annual checkups and blood work, things like that. So I'll be seeing the vet again in October. Also, I carry my dog's records, medical records with me, so I have those always on hand. And here's what I do now, because of Crystal's question. Here's how I plan. When I get to a spot, I typically stay in that spot for about a week to 3 weeks. No, when I say that I stay there, I don't necessarily stay in the same campground. Often I'll move to various campgrounds, but in a general area where I will stay for anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks. So what I do now is I Google 24-hour vet near me, and also I'll Google emergency vet near me. And then I will go through the list, and Google will give it to you in a list that shows reviews. So I read reviews. It shows you how many miles they are from your location, and I look at that. So for example, today, where I am now, I'm up in the mountains, so I'm not by any major city. And that's where you're going to find a 24-hour vet, obviously, is in a big city or in a bigger city. But here's what I'm finding out. In these small places where I like to go, up in the mountains, out in the deserts, small towns, there's always a country vet. There's always a vet that I can, who's listed on Google, and I can find them, and I know that they'll either do a house call or emergency call, or they will open up and I can get to them in an emergency. So what I do is, after reading reviews and looking at how many miles they are away from me, I pull up their website, I look at it, and then I bookmark it. And I bookmark it. I actually made a separate folder in my bookmarks that says in all capital letters, emergency vet, and I bookmark it in that folder. So I have it, because if you're having an emergency with your dog, that is not the time to be Googling emergency vets in your area, right? I'd be freaking out. So I have it bookmarked in a folder that says emergency vet. So when I move to a new location, when I go to a whole new area and I search for a new vet, I will replace the old vet that I have in that bookmark with the new vet information. And basically, I just keep one vet's name in there, and that's it. Now, if I were really probably being extra judicious, I would probably put a couple of vets' names in that bookmark, and I may start to do that. But I have found in some of these places, like where I am now, there's only one vet. There's a country vet. His name comes up, and I'll be calling him if there's an emergency. And whether I go to him or whether he comes to me will probably depend on what's going on and how far he is from me. So thank you, Crystal, for helping me prepare. What an amazing way, asking such a great question. All of these were great questions. Thanks, you guys. You're awesome. Lisa, Lucy, and Crystal, thank you for your questions. And if you guys have questions, send them to me. You can drop them in the comments below this video. You can find us on Facebook under Boundless Dogs. You can find us on Instagram, #BoundlessDogs. Leave your questions there, and I will try to do these campfire chats once a month with you and answer your questions. You can ask me about our lifestyle. You can ask me about the dogs. You can ask me about training in regards to RVing, and training you've seen me do, or training you'd like to see me do, or training that would involve your dogs if you live this lifestyle. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate your watches. Don't forget, subscribe, like, and share these videos. And I will see you next month on another Campfire Chat. Thanks, you guys.